Welcome to another video. This one is a mono portrait that I did for my students on graphics drafting film 0.005 double matte, and I utilised all of the warm grey Prismacolor Premier pencils. I've always struggled a little bit getting smooth subjects onto drafting film, and I found that the Prismas work incredibly well. Now, all of the warm grey Prismas have the highest light fast rating in the Prisma range, so you don't need to worry about the colours fading or anything like that. And it's actually quite nice to work without colour. Every now and again. Obviously, I'm a colour pencil artist. I love working with colour, but working monotone is a really nice idea. It really helps with your values, and of course we know that values are the most important thing to bring your portraits to life. So here you have a 12-hour drawing condensed into about 13 minutes. I'm using incredibly light pressure. So none of my pencil strokes are done with any more than a light pressure. I'm working sort of light to dark, very sharp pencils when I'm doing the details, and then they're a little bit blunter when I'm trying to bring in, some of the skin tones and all of that kind of thing. What I found was, as I worked through the portrait, what I found was that actually I didn't need to blend in the traditional sense where you kind of put a colour down and then you squish another colour over the top of it so it sort of blends it and merges the colours together. What I found actually was a better way of getting that smooth lay down was to actually just have single pencil strokes next to each other, which holds its own challenges because obviously you've got to avoid stripiness, but it worked really nicely. I also found that the Prisma Black wasn't presenting black enough, so I swapped it out for a luminance black, and that gave me a much darker black colour. When I create eyes, I always start with sort of like the outside bit, and whilst we're working with a line art here, it's a really easy way of just getting started, of just kind of following your line art and just putting a few lines in. The eye doesn't come to life, or won't come to life, until you add the shadows and of course the eyelashes. It's going to look very odd without eyelashes. So bringing your eyelashes in relatively quickly, but I like to get all of those tones and values and everything sorted out around the eye first, and then bring the eyelashes in over the top. When you're drawing eyelashes, you've got to be really careful that they start where they're supposed to start. They've got that nice little curvy line in them, and they're sort of not all exactly the same length or going in the same direction. That way you're going to get eyelashes that look really nice and realistic. And again, with the bottom ones, make sure that they start where they're supposed to start. It's really easy to allow our brains to take over and draw what we think eyes and eyelashes look like. So the hair, this was more of the part of the drawing that was a little bit boring, because of course you're just kind of drawing lines of hair and it's not overly interesting. But it is important to watch the direction that you're drawing in. It's important that you you follow the lights and the darks, all of that kind of thing. And it's important that you don't have too many details in there so that the hair looks too stripy. I found my little Tombow mono eraser really helpful, just to get some of those little light hairs coming in over the top. If you use the Tombow mono and you struggle to use light pressure with it, try to lighten the pressure of your pencil work, and then your Tombow will be able to lift the colours out. So when I was drawing this bit here, this is where I realised that the blending wasn't going to work, and as we can see there, it kind of goes a little bit purpley up on the top there. I was using the 50% warm grey, and then I think I was blending it with a 20%, and it just went a bit odd. And it went a bit purpley, and I was like, I'm not sure that actually I really want to blend like this now. So I started to sort of have a think about a better way of blending, particularly for when I came to do the skin below the eyes. One of the things that I still struggle with is getting everything dark enough. So I tend to kind of do something and then come back and darken it and then tweak it and then darken it. I think a lot of people do that, to be honest. I ended up bringing out the big boys in the Derwent Ivory Black. just to get a little bit more pigment down quicker, because I was kind of getting a bit bored at that point. And then again, just sort of tweaking, and then we come down into the nose area and the face area, and this is where I went a little bit wrong here. And I took this out a little bit later on. I used a magic sponge to take this out. But you can see it kind of goes a bit patchy. And again, I was trying to blend it all and make it all really smooth. And it just wasn't working. And then I was like, no, I'm going to have to change this. So instead of starting with a light colour and trying to blend it all out, I ended up using the 70% and the 90% with just really nice light pressure and just using single pencil strokes. This is, you can see me doing it here on this side of the face. Single pencil strokes next to each other, just working down, not a sharp pencil. You don't want a sharp pencil, but just these nice single pencil strokes. The other thing that you've got to be very careful about with Prismas is that they do shed pigment quite a lot. So you get these little pigment blobs coming through quite a lot, especially with drafting film. So just make sure that you're cleaning the end of your pencil regularly and you're cleaning the pigment off your surface as well. What I found later on was that some of these little spots were getting onto the surface of the film, and I had to scratch them away with my slice tool, which was a little bit annoying, but it was fine. And then I came over the top with a 90%, Prisma 90% warm grey. So I started with the Prisma 70, and I just put a nice layer of that in, and then I used my 90% over the top just to darken. Now this particular photograph, which is from When Photos, the skin, although it's Caucasian, the skin is actually really dark. This is where I took it out with the magic sponge. If you've not heard of a magic sponge before, I use the Mr. Clean, and it's great for drafting film because you're not rubbing and taking the surface off. So I would definitely get some because it is really, really useful. Especially on drafting film, because drafting film is an amazing surface, but sometimes, you know, if you rub too hard, it's really difficult to get your pigment back on. So constantly going back and tweaking areas and all of that kind of thing. Bringing in a few of these little freckles. There's freckles all over this person, and they really helped to camouflage some of the mistakes that I made. Because of course we all make mistakes, and that's fine. You know, I think it's really, really important to talk about mistakes and actually how we deal with them and how our behaviour, you know, what behaviour we have when we make a mistake. For me, I never lose my temper with my drawings. It's more about working out a plan if something's gone wrong. So I've never kind of ripped a piece of work off my drawing board and thrown it in the bin, or ripped it up or scribbled on it or anything like that. If I've come across a problem, I'll sit and I'll figure out what I'm going to do. And usually it turns out absolutely fine. So you can see the skin coming in here, and you can see it's a little bit stripy, but when we start to darken it and we start to bring another layer of colour in, and we start to add those little freckles and the darker elements, it all comes together and it all starts to get smoother, and it works really, really well. It works really nicely. The dark area here where we've got the sort of halo effect coming through, I use the 90% Prisma and also some of the blacks, the luminance and the Derwent drawing. And you can see again here where I'm starting to really darken the skin, bringing in those freckles. So you had separate freckles, and then you had freckles that kind of all merged together. One thing that I would say I had to be careful about with these freckles was that I didn't press too hard, because I didn't want them to be very dark on the skin. I wanted them to be very much a part of the skin. So the nose, I think noses are always quite tricky, human noses, because you've got to get the darks and the lights really correct. If you don't, then the nose is going to look either the wrong shape or at the wrong angle. You know, and sometimes you do need to make some adjustments. You can see me making adjustments here with my eraser and the sponge, just because I got the nose was the nostril area was slightly the wrong shape. So having those little tools around really, really helps. And again, you can see that I'm using this single pencil stroke technique, and you can see that at first it does look a little bit stripy, but once you know all of the elements come in and you start to darken bits and you get another layer on, then it all works out really, really well. I find the kneadable eraser pretty good actually for just softening things and just adding a little bit of highlights here and there as well. I did tend to work without the line art underneath. I just found it so much easier. It's a very simple line art anyway, but I did find it much, much easier not having the lines in place and just kind of working, you know, more with my eye, you know, just to make sure that everything was in the right place, you know, which worked really well. This is the part of the drawing that I really enjoyed, darkening everything up and really starting to get that form coming in and everything starting to look like it should look. This bit here, when I start on this next bit here, I'd kind of had enough at this point, and I was like, I just want to finish now. What I should have done was this, and then the nose at the end. So you can see when I bring the pencil work in here, you can see that I've rushed it, that it looks hairy. And I've got all of these funny little bits all over it, these funny little bits of marks where the pigment kind of got in. I didn't worry about it. I wasn't like, oh, I've ruined this or anything like that. I just came back over the top, and the end result I think is great. That's the slice tool coming in there, just trying to sort of nip those little bits of pigment that have got stuck on the film. So darkening it really, really helped, coming in with that darker pencil and working in the opposite direction to the initial layer that I put in with the 70%. You can see how it starts to smooth everything out. And then of course we have this lovely halo at the other side as well with the black. And then we can start to bring all of the freckles and everything in there as well. So this is highly sped up. This is sort of like 60 times the speed. You know, it's 13 minutes pretty much from 12 hours. So hopefully you've got some ideas, you know, about how you can use Prisma on film. Keep your pressure really, really, really nice and light. Try not to rush. You know, don't feel you have to have your line art under there at all. But most of all, be patient. You know, be really, really patient with your coloured pencil drawings, well, any kind of drawing, and try some of these monotone pieces out, because they are really, really fun and really help you with your values.